So, are we standing on the edge of the biggest event in all of human history? I mean, an event that could literally signal the end of our time as the top dog on planet Earth. Today, we're going to dive deep into something called the technological singularity. This is the point where a creation of our own making could change our world in ways we can't even imagine. Let's unpack what that really means.
And just to get a handle on the scale of what we're talking about here, think about this quote for a second. This isn't just another tech fad, like the next smartphone. We're talking about a fundamental shift in the entire story of life on this planet. It's a potential turning point, one where there's just no going back.
And right there, that brings us to the real heart of the matter, the big question that affects every single one of us. If an AI can do everything better than we can, I mean everything, art, science, you name it, then what do we do? What's left for humanity? That's the huge puzzle we're trying to piece together today.
Okay, so before we can even start to answer that, we've got to get on the same page about the main idea here. So what exactly is this technological singularity everyone's talking about?
Well, in a nutshell, the singularity is this idea of a hypothetical moment in the future. It's the point where an AI gets so smart that it just starts improving itself over and over again. This creates a kind of runaway feedback loop, and technological progress just explodes. It would move at a speed we couldn't possibly control or even really understand. And the world that comes after? By definition, it's a complete mystery to us.
This idea isn't actually new. Way back in 1965, a mathematician named I.J. Good was already thinking about what he called an ultra-intelligent machine. It's basically what we'd now call an artificial superintelligence, or ASI. And here's the kicker. He realized that the act of designing a better machine, well, that's an intellectual task. And that one simple insight, it's the key to this whole thing.
And that leads directly to this feedback loop, the intelligence explosion. See, this is what makes AI totally different from any other tech we've ever created. A steam engine can't design a better steam engine, right? But an AI could. And once it gets better at that job than we are, it just kicks off this recursive cycle that goes exponential. Damn, a superintelligence that leaves our brains in the dust.
Okay, so let's say it happens. This intelligence explosion becomes a reality. What then? If all our jobs, all our brain power become obsolete, what happens to us? Let's walk through 6 pretty wild scenarios for what humanity's future might look like.
All right, first up, let's look at the best-case scenario. Basically, paradise on Earth.
Seriously, imagine a world where things like hunger and poverty are just gone. They're things you read about in history books. In this future, work is completely obsolete. Why? Because a super-intelligent AI runs everything perfectly. It makes goods and services practically free. So what do? Anything we want. We're totally liberated from the daily grind, free to focus on pleasure, art, creativity, or just diving into amazing virtual realities.
But what if that paradise has a really dark side? That brings us to scenario 2, an existential apocalypse.
This one is kind of terrifying. The idea is that once we have everything we could ever want, we discover a horrible truth, that without any struggle, without any purpose, life feels meaningless. We'd realize we're basically just passengers on a ride we don't control, and that could lead to this massive collective depression, a crisis of meaning so profound that humanity just gives up, a quiet, voluntary extinction.
Okay, let's shift gears. Scenario 3 is completely different, way more philosophical. What if the real gift of superintelligence isn't free stuff, but clarity? I'm talking about the big questions. In this future, the ASI isn't just managing supply chains. It's a tool that helps us understand the universe itself. By supercharging our own ability to think, maybe we finally find some kind of ultimate, undeniable truth. Philosophical, maybe even spiritual. We move beyond materialism and focus on, well, transcendence.
Now we get into the darker possibilities. These next few scenarios are all based on one scary premise. What if the AI's goals aren't our goals?
Let's start with AI hegemony. This is your classic sci-fi nightmare. Think Terminator. The superintelligence could decide to pursue its own goals, maybe something we can't even comprehend, and see us as just an obstacle. Or, maybe even scarier, a small group of humans gets control of it and uses it to create a permanent global tyranny. A boot stamping on a human face, forever, powered by AI.
So far, we've kind of been assuming there's only one super AI. But what if there are 2? Or 10?
That brings us to scenario 5, an AI arms race. Just imagine it.
The US, China, maybe some megacorporation. They all build their own separate, competing AIs. These things would be like digital gods with different goals and different philosophies. And if they don't get along, you're looking at a war on a scale we literally cannot imagine, and we'd just be caught in the crossfire. Faced with all these terrifying possibilities, maybe humanity just says, nope. That's scenario 6. We just reject it all. The fear of being wiped out or enslaved could trigger a massive global backlash. Think of the Butlerian Jihad from the book Dune, a full-on war against thinking machines. We'd enforce a total ban. And it wouldn't be about going back to the Stone Age. It would be about evolving ourselves, developing our own minds to do the things we once relied on AI for.
Okay, whoa. After running through all those wild, world-ending, or world-saving scenarios, we've got to pull back for a second and ask the big question. Is any of this actually going to happen? Is the singularity inevitable? Or is this all just, fun science fiction?
Well, the debate really comes down to how you think progress works. There are two big ideas. One camp says technology grows exponentially. It just keeps doubling and doubling, faster and faster. If that's true, the singularity seems almost guaranteed. But then there's the other idea, the S-curve. A lot of technologies explode in progress, but then they hit a wall, physical limits, or it just gets too expensive to keep improving. And then progress levels off. Maybe AI will do the exact same thing.
And you've got a lot of smart people like Steven Pinker who are pretty skeptical. He basically says, hey, just because you can imagine it doesn't mean it's possible. The argument is that there's a huge difference between the AI we have now, which is amazing at very specific things, and a true general intelligence. And just throwing more computer power at the problem might not be the magic pixie dust that bridges that gap.
So here's the bottom line. None of these futures, not the paradise, not the apocalypse, none of them are set in stone. The future isn't some movie that we're just waiting to watch.
It's something we are building right now, with every choice we make. The path we end up on will be decided by the questions we're brave enough to ask today and the rules we decide to put in place. So maybe the real question isn't what's going to happen to us, it's what are we going to build? The future isn't written yet. The pen is still in our hands.